Dominance. Not many people like it. A very regular thing in sport as a whole. You're gonna get cases where one team or person is just way better than everyone else. I mean, take the Crusaders in Super Rugby, for example. And it's been especially the case in motorsport basically since the very beginning. If you had the best car, most likely you're going to be starting up the front and finishing up the front. It's been happening in Formula 1, Touring Car Championships, Stock Car Series, the list goes on. And it was especially the case in 2023 when I'd wake up on a Monday morning and I'd check my phone and see that Max Verstappen has won the latest Grand Prix. When looking back in time, all these cases of dominance are very impressive, but in the present you're thinking, man, it's just so fucking boring. But it could be worse. There could be the case where you do the dominating, but you don't get the result in the end. This is a phenomenon I like to call unrewarded dominance. Basically, you do all the heavy lifting and put all the hard effort and all the mahi into it, but in the end, you just end up with bugger all. In keeping the Bathurst 1000 theme alive, I will list 5 of the most dominant performances that haven't been rewarded with a victory. Firstly, 3 honourable mentions I'd like to mention. 2007, the Mark Winterbottom and Stephen Richards effort. They led a total of 74 laps before Mark Winterbottom dumped it off the road at the chase, and they wouldn't really recover from there, finishing 10th. In 2010, it would be Gary Rogers' motorsport turn with Lee Holdsworth and David Bernard. They would end up leading 81 laps, but because of a late race speeding penalty in the pit lane, all that hard work was put to naught, and 10 years on from their last win, Gary Rogers couldn't come up with the win. In the next year, you've got Jamie Whincup and Andrew Thompson in the 88 car, and they had alternator issues and would finish 21st. They started 8th. If you saw my video from a few days ago, you'll know that this is the curse, and they ended up leading 85 laps that day. Now, just to note, all these efforts are from 1993 forward. Racing Reference does not have the stats from the 1991 or 1992 race back. In the 5th spot is the only one of these with the double digits. 1999. 55 cars were on the grid for this one, and there was some memorable storylines going into the race. You had Dick Johnson's last race. Mark Larkin was on pole in his number 10 Mitre 10 car. You had a fight for the championship because it was a championship fight, but there was an unexpected name that would be the dominant car throughout the whole race. Paul Radisich, and quite possibly a subject for a future Diamonds in the Gravel episode, Stephen Ellery, led a total of 94 laps. How did they do it? Speed. They had the fastest cars down the straights, and they used that to their advantage. Stephen and Dick Johnson did that as well, but Stephen would unfortunately make a mistake trying to pass someone. But it would come to naught for the number 18 Shell Helix Ford. Why? Because Paul Radisich got impatient. He tried to pass the lap car of Mark Paul at the top of the mountain, unfortunately would clip him, and that would cut the tyre. And then coming into the pit lane, the front splitter would dig in, and that would fuck with the engine cooling, and then quite later afterwards the engine would go kaput. And ironically, Paul Radisich would be seen feeding the horses when he is allergic to them. Number 4 on my list would actually be the previous years, 1998. The Dream Team was finally put together, Mark Scaife and Craig Lowndes. Craig Lowndes had absolutely ripped apart the 1998 championship if it wasn't for the fact that Russell Ingall was right behind him. I've done a video on that series quite some time last year if you want to check it out. But they ran a clinic on the entire pack, 104 laps led. But what would take them out? Bridgestone. Tyre failures. Their trusty partners, Bridgestone, they would have 2 tyre failures. One that would end up in the chase, which would actually get them stuck because they would be pushed into the gravel and not out of the gravel. And then they'd have another tyre failure at McPhilmy Park. Still, somehow finished 6th. That just shows the attrition of late 90s Bathurst 1000s. Number 3 on my list is from 2018. This was a massive race of attrition, and not because there were so many retirements, mainly because the lack of retirements. There was a lack of safety cars, and that required a triple stint on the way home. And the Erebus Motorsport car seem to be the powerhouse of the race. Last year they were very good. They won the race, they were very good, but they weren't always in contention to win the 2017 race. 2018, they got pole. They led 112 laps. But what would end up getting this team to fall to 13th? Well, it was David Reynolds himself. He has been overworked that whole day and his leg would end up cramping, so much so they had to pull him out of the car and put Luke Youlden in it. Unfortunately, like I said, unlucky finish 13th. Like and subscribe to make my cat happy. Number 2 is the first of the 5 litre era races. Well, first of the proper ones. There was a few in 1992, but this is 1993. The defending champions of the race, the 2-time defending champions, Mark Skaife and Stephen Richards, were once again looking strong. It did help the Holden had a bit of a parity tweak going into the second half of the season because, well, the first half of the season they were quite shit. But I mean, with Mark Skaife and Jim Richards in the car, you're gonna be strong. Fun fact, in the 1993 race, there were only 2 cars that led laps that day. One of them led 44 laps. The other one led 117. Since this is this sort of list, I'll let you know which one is which. Yeah, he was outdone by the only other car that was competitive with him, the Larry Perkins Greg Hansford car. It was a ding-dong battle throughout the whole day, but the number 11 would end up outclassing the number 1. But the number 1 pick on the most dominant performance to not be rewarded is in 2016. Basically throughout the whole race, the number 88 car of Jamie Whincup and Paul Dunbar was untouchable. They were flawless in pit stops. Rarely anybody ever encouraged a pass up until lap 151 when he would make contact with Scott McLaughlin, who was actually ironically leading some laps, one of the very few times this car wasn't leading laps. And McLaughlin would go off the road, have that whole drama, hit Tander, who started in 8th, again the curse, and Whincup would be penalised. Want to know how many laps the number 88 car led? 133. I don't really want to do the math on how many kilometres that is in a 161 lap race, but it's got to be close to 800 probably. And I mean, it sucks for all these teams that are on this list because you put in all the mahi to lead this many laps, only for you to get nothing in the end. It just sucks. You get nothing. So that is my quick list of the top 5 most dominant unrewarded performances. If you like this video and you want to see more of this unscripted YouTube content, if it wasn't obvious that it was unscripted, give a like and a subscribe. The support would be very much appreciated. I love seeing how much support the last few videos have been getting, and see you in the next video, whatever that may be.